And then you're going to want to go to select both the text objects, go to MoGraph, Random Effector. And then after you selected the random effector, you go to fall off and make it a spherical fall off. And then you can drop the random effector into these. And as you can see here, we got our transition starting to piece together. But you're gonna want to go back to your random effector, go to fall off, and change the strength to 100%. And what this does is it makes the animation go a bit smoother. And then under parameter, you can start to mess around with how you want it to transform together when you go through the animation. And I'm just going to select some random numbers here. You can play around with it, see whatever you want, see which one you like best, which works best for you. How about 142? If you want, you can add some rotation to it. Say we go to, I don't know, just random numbers. Maybe 86 again. And now you can see that once you select all of them, it drags it across, transitions different, looks really nice. And then on the random effector, you want to go to fall off. No, never mind. We already did that. Now, once we're ready to do this, you can just add some keyframes. What I like to do is make it 150 frames to around 60 seconds. You drag this to the end of the timeline. And then you select the effectors and you go to 0 on the timeline and you add this, you hit this little red key button, the keyframe, and then you drag it to the end of the timeline and drag these effectors there to the end of the timeline. And then once we play it back, you can see I got this really nice transition going, coming together nicely. Okay. Now you're going to want to go to MoGraph and find the delay effector. And what this does, you can go to Effector, go to Mode, Spring, Strength, move it up to around 70. And what this does, sorry, before you bring the delay effector in, make sure that you have these text objects selected, and then you go to MoGraph, delay effector, strength about 70, mode, spring. And what this does, here, we'll just move this over here. What this does, you can, You can see it kind of makes the pieces bounce together. Makes it look a lot nicer. And then once you drag it back to the beginning of the timeline, select both text objects, and you're going to right click, go to MoGraph tags, and add a rigid body. And with the first text that you're going to display, you're going to right click it, and then go to Dynamics. You're gonna right click it so it shows up down here. Go to Dynamics and trigger at velocity peak. And then the second rigid body tag, you right click it and you uncheck dynamic. And then with the first text, you're gonna go to effectors and uncheck plane effector. And then when you play it back, you can see that the pieces of the first text fly off. And as you can see, some of it look like it's sticking together, but it's just because we have it so that it's kind of laggy in Cinema 4D some of the time. So like that, like it's playing backwards now. And what you're going to want to do from there, you're going to go to the first text, and now we're going to want to go to add a camera. So you go to this and you add a camera, and you see the little white box. You just check the white box and you adjust the camera angle to where you want your animation to start. So we're gonna bring this one like right about there. Looks pretty good. And once you've found the angle that you like, what looks good to you, you're gonna add a keyframe, add 0 frames. You're gonna add a keyframe, and you're gonna drag this to the end of the timeline and adjust the camera again to how you want the animation, where you want it to end. Zoom out maybe a little bit so you can see the whole thing. Bring it over a little bit, and you add another keyframe, and then when you play it back, you can see the camera moves across the screen, and you might want to move the camera a little bit to perfect it so it shows the whole thing while it's going through the animation. Just play around with it, whatever you want to do with it. And from here, we can just add a floor. What this does is it makes it so that when you play it, the pieces don't fall off once you right click on the floor, go to MoGraph tags and add a rigid body tag so that now once you play it back, the pieces should bounce off the floor and stay there, so it adds more realistic effect to it. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to add some lights. Click this, add a light, bring the light up, maybe down a little bit, bring it closer. Maybe bring one of them, say, over here, drag it up, copy the light by going Control C, Control V, drag this second light over here. And now once we render it out, it's looking pretty good. And now, once we're done, you're going to add a new material. And I'm going to keep my material like a lighter gray. And you're going to click on the reflection, go to texture and Fresnel. And you're going to drop the brightness down to about 20, 22, 23. That's fine. You're going to add that to the floor. And also what you want to do, if you want to make it a little blurry, you bring the blurriness up to about 5%. That makes it look good. And then once you render it out, you can see the reflection of that. It's looking really good. And from here, we're about done. You're just ready to render. You go to your render settings, you go to output, you change the output to HDTV 2927, and you choose whatever you want to save. If you're on a Mac, you're going to want to save it as a QuickTime movie. If not, you're going to want to save it as an AVI. And then you're going to want to go to best to get the best quality out of it and make it animation, and change the max level down to 2x2. And from here, you're just about done. You can add, if you want effects, you can go to ambient occlusion and gives a little shadow, but that slows down the render time, so I don't like to do that. And that's basically it. And remember, this isn't permanent. You can change the settings to whatever you want. It's really open with this plugin. Okay, this has been the tutorial on the Thrausi plugin. It's been Hyper for Cinema 4D Tuts. Thanks, I'm out.